questions.
Great. So what you have the opportunity to do right now is really provide your own self-assessment. So what I'd like to do now is ask a series of questions, and ideally you can really put some time and energy into trying to answer them, or at least assessing if you know the answer. The first one is, do you have an organized budget? We run across clients all day long that still don't operate with a budget. And if you are going to go down the planning path, this is one of the first steps. A close second would be knowing those living expenses we talked about earlier, and really trying to leverage technology, if you'd like, to help assess both a budget and your living expenses can be of great value. The third question is an interesting one. Do you know how much is enough to retire the way you want to? And perhaps the first step to even beginning to answer that question is, what type of lifestyle do you want to live in retirement? One of the trends we're seeing for folks transitioning out of the workplace is weaving the idea of leisure and work together, back and forth, creating their own schedule. So, maybe that's something that's attractive to you. Do you know the probability you have of reaching your goals and of obtaining that lifestyle? And this really points to what Forrest was talking about when we go through the Monte Carlo test and the Monte Carlo analysis, really assessing a probability of success with your situation. By knowing the probability of success, as Forrest talked about, we're able to, and you're able to pinpoint how can you improve that probability of success. And then, do you know the asset allocation that gives you the best chance to succeed? We often come across folks who they're allocated not in an optimum way. They're allocated in a way that is either too aggressive or too conservative, often based on fears or based on emotions, based on rumors, not based on concrete numbers that increases the probability of their long-term success. So these are all questions that you can ask yourself and that you should ask yourself, and put time and energy into trying to provide context around your retirement plan and the planning elements as a whole. At Bell Investment Advisors, when we look at retirement planning, we really break it into 4 critical stages. First and foremost is always getting to know you and providing you with an opportunity to be heard, listening to your concerns and gathering all the critical information for us to provide a plan and to begin that process. We'll then create a plan, and this involves some back and forth. We'll share the results with you, and then together we can find a clear path to provide the best retirement possible. We typically find this process being 2 to 5 meetings. It does vary. And if you'd like to engage with us in the retirement plan area, we charge $1,000 for those services. Now, we do offer other more comprehensive planning elements, but for today's purpose, we really wanted to focus in on retirement planning specifically. And the other thing I should note is 100% of our revenue is tied to fees only, so we're not selling or recommending any commission-based products, so there's no conflict there involved. I think that's an important element when you're looking out in the marketplace. So we thank you for participating today in our webinar. We do have an opportunity to answer some of your questions. And as I mentioned a moment ago, or excuse me, at the beginning of today's presentation, you can submit those questions now using the control box in the right area. And if we don't answer your question, we'd be happy to work with you one-on-one to provide a satisfactory answer.
Dana, I have a first question here, and it regards pensions. The question reads, I have a pension. How does that affect retirement planning?
That's a great question. So earlier in today's presentation, we were talking quite a bit about the distribution phase and knowing those expenses and things of that nature. Well, the pension is a very critical component of retirement planning and of your plan. It's one of the positive areas in terms of it provides income. So, we certainly want to know about and understand how your pension operates, and that becomes a source of income and an area for you to live off in retirement. But what we find is it may not be enough, and that's where the investment and the other side of the portfolio comes into play. It looks like we have another question in regards to real estate. Forrest, perhaps you can answer this. Do you incorporate real estate in your retirement planning?
We do. We have to. Most of our clients live in the Bay Area, and many of them own investment property or a vacation home. And so it's a very relevant and important part of retirement planning. We think of real estate in the way that we would any investment, and that is we ask the question, what is the goal? For some of their clients, it is their goal to continue living in the house that they love. And that is taken into account in the plan, and we look at what their probability of success will be, given that they're not looking to make any changes with real estate. Alternatively, someone can have a goal that is just vastly different. They find that they have much of their equity and their total portfolio locked in real estate and want to find ways to unlock that capital to support other goals, like traveling or relocating to a different place in the country or sometimes outside the country.
It looks like we have another question that just came in. Perhaps you could answer this, Forrest. One of my retired friends reports that her living expenses change year to year. How do you account for that type of variability?
That's a great question. Generally speaking, what we see is that living expenses spike at the beginning of retirement because there's pent-up demand. Oftentimes, you still have a healthy and willing body, and you want to go out and experience things that you've been waiting a long time to experience. And that's why in the first part of the retirement stage, oftentimes your living expenses are higher. Then it generally falls into a more regular pattern until the end of life, at which point living expenses spike again because of medical costs. However, every situation is different, and one of the virtues of working with a planner is every time there is a change, it can be accounted for in the planning process.
Great. It looks like we're just about out of time today, so we really want to thank you all for participating in today's webinar. You will receive a link in about a week to this recorded, to this webinar today, in which you could watch again or forward to a friend or a colleague. But before we conclude, I'd like to provide you all with some next steps. I think it's important to take action in life, and we've offered you a variety of next steps that you can take action in. The first one is simply to make an assessment of your own retirement plan needs, starting with some of the questions we went over earlier today. The second one would be to simply schedule a complimentary review with us, where we can really dig into your specific situation in more detail, with no obligation. And third, you can contact us to be on our mailing list for future events, including online webinars that we produce on a semi-regular basis. Last but not least, we do have a library of webinars that we've done over the course of the last 6 to 8 months and beyond. And you can view those by visiting our website at www.bellinvest.com. Again, a reminder, we will be sending out a survey shortly. Please give us your feedback. We deeply appreciate that feedback, and really it becomes a valuable component. So again, thank you very much. We'd love to hear from you, and have a great day.